Welcome back to the Voices of Religion. BUDO, Mind and Body is a book that really teaches us about the martial arts, the history, what the martial arts are today, how they are seen, what they add to someone's life. Nicklaus, tell me, how is the international picture when it comes to the martial arts? Is North America, one of the places where there's a bigger following? What about the Far East? What about Europe? Like, what is the snapshot internationally for this form of art and fitness? And
well, martial arts are big all over, but they take many different forms. What you see now is an explosion of non-traditional martial arts. Mm. And by that is, what I mean by that is people who have maybe a basis in the traditional art forms, such as the old Japanese art forms that descend from thousands of years ago, but who then add a lot of acrobatics to it or excitement, maybe to try to get more students in their school or to try to win competitions. There's a lot of that in Europe, there's a lot in North America. I don't know much about the Far East other than Japan, right. But from what I see in the media, it looks like that's a big trend. Right. It's in great opposition to what I do, which is a preservation of a traditional art form. We try to maintain all the old cultural aspects as we continue to practice and refine what we know.
When you are in training, to get to the level that you are, do you go back to Japan? Do you spend time with certain masters? Are there certain names that are revered in this particular field as, those that have not only, I suppose, the physical but the spiritual aspect and are almost like I would think of today as sort of like modern day gurus? Like, what is that like?
Well, no question about it. I go back to Japan on a regular basis and I train with certain people. Now, unfortunately, my original teacher of Iaido has passed away. He was a gentleman named Yamaguchi Katsuo, and he received the highest rank that you can receive in the swordsmanship system, and was an absolutely amazing swordsman. He could quiet a stadium full of people just by going through his forms. He had a spiritual power that I've been trying to emulate for many years, but I have a long way to get there. There are people like him, and that's what keeps people going back to Japan. Unfortunately, his generation is getting old quickly, and they're starting to disappear. And so it's going to create an interesting historical turning point, I say, in the next decade or so, when a lot of the older Japanese masters pass away, and we're left with better martial artists, perhaps better trained martial artists in other places outside of Japan.
That is really interesting, because you would think that this would be almost an institution that they would want to be preserving in Japan. And you would think that younger people would be very interested in it because of having such historic connections.
Well, there are definitely some younger people in Japan interested in the martial arts, but it's a minority. It seems that the vast majority of Japanese young people are interested in Western pursuits. And a good reason for that is that martial arts training is hard. It doesn't give you quick rewards. On the other hand, the rewards you do get are very powerful.
It's interesting, when you were talking about how your mentor was somebody who had that sort of energy zone around him. I think that is one of the things that attracts people to watch people who are in the martial arts, is because there is some other layer to it, even when you're watching people, just doing the solo, as you said, are they called forms?
Sure.
Yeah, that there is a sort of energy field around it that people can feel. You can feel some sort of presence.
I really like the words you used, energy zone or energy field. I hadn't thought of explaining it in that way, but you see that in the development of people in swordsmanship over time. There's no energy zone on somebody who's just started, but gradually, the longer they train, the more they sort of fill up the room. And after a while, as I said, my teacher could fill up a stadium and absolutely chill the crowd down. I feel like maybe I can chill out a small dojo, a 20 by 20 room. I'm still working on that, but it's part and parcel of the training that your personal energy space increases as you train longer.
What was it like getting to know him? Is there a sort of talking relationship that is apart from that, or is it sort of contained within the zone of practicing when you are someone who's gone back to Japan and trained with certain people? Is it a friendship? Is it sort of someone you can ask guidance from? What is the conversation part of it like?
Every teacher is different. Some teachers are very severe. My particular swordsmanship teacher was a very gentle man, very friendly. We often had lunch together at his home. We drank tea together outside of practice, and we talked about a lot of things. He was very generous, but that's not always true. Some Japanese teachers are on the mat And then when they're off the mat, they're very private.
How did you find your mentor? How would somebody find a mentor in Japan? As you're saying, they're older now, and not many coming up to replace them. But how did you find yours, and how do people that have gone that route and gone up the ranks as you have, how did you first find your mentor?
Well, in my day, it was a little harder to do because we didn't have such a great internet information system. And what I had to do was get a series of letters of recommendation from an American teacher who had trained with some Japanese teachers after World War II, and then through one of those teachers to my teacher. And when I got that, of course, that got me in the door, and I was able to train with him. Nowadays, you can find the teachers, but you still have the problem that a lot of Japanese teachers are very private, or they believe that the art should only be shared with certain people. And so you still have to sort of prove yourself before they're going to accept you.
In a strange way, I sort of respect that, because what they're saying, those people, that you have to prove yourself or have a recommendation, that it's not just a passing fad to them, that there is a very spiritual aspect and there's a lineage to it that they feel that they are part of passing down. So that makes sense that they would, you know, not just kind of allow people to bop in and bop out. Like, you know, you have to be somebody who is really committed to understanding all the dimensions. Right. Of the martial arts.
And as a martial arts teacher myself, I understand that, because it can be very frustrating to put a lot of yourself into somebody for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then have them go away. Now, I understand that's the natural way of things, but as a teacher, what you really want is a lot of students who are really committed for a long time.
Yeah, the dream, the dream. When we come back, I can give you a last word, and also mention a novel that I think you might be interested in, because it sort of featured someone who, again, was preserving that sort of ancient art form, in particular with the sword. So I'll mention that when we return.
Great.
Please stay with us. There's more on the Voices of Religion straight ahead.